You're listening to the Business Marketing Show, episode number 21. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com or on iTunes. Hi everyone, this is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show and Online Impact with my co-host Brendan Tully from the Search Engine Shop. How are you today, Brendan?
Good morning, Ed. I am well. How about yourself?
Very good to hear. We have a subject this morning that is near and dear to our hearts that a lot of people may be subconsciously unaware of and even consciously unaware of at the same time. And that is the subject of display networks, remarketing, retargeting, and we'll be discussing those subjects today.
Display ads.
Display ads, yeah, that's probably, that's would be the overall umbrella.
Yeah,
probably
need to be careful. These are, in the past, they were called banner ads, which
they used to be, yes.
Yeah, which probably doesn't give that term. I think for a lot of people has very negative connotations, so it probably doesn't. It's probably not a good term to use because most people hate banner ads.
Yeah, we will not use the word banner ads at all in this conversation. Actually, I don't think we should say banner ads anywhere because people will get confused, and if they keep hearing the word banner ads, that's all that's going to be in their head.
Yeah, no. Display ads are very powerful. I think a simple way to explain them, and this is how I explain them to my clients. I don't know how you do it, but you think about it like this. If you split the type of ads on the internet into two, one you have search engine ads or traditional AdWords for search, which are all about capturing demand. So people go to a search engine and they want something, they're looking to find something, so they have some sort of demand. Search ads are designed to capture demand. Display ads are completely different, and they are designed for two things. One is to create awareness of whatever it is you have or you're selling or whatever's happening. So creating awareness and actually creating demand or increasing demand as well. So they really, from a sales and marketing perspective, if you think of search ads as they really sit at the bottom of the sales funnel, and display ads sit in, I guess, the top 2/3 of the sales funnel.
Very good description, Brendan.
You like that?
I like that.
I have a graphic we can put on the podcast show notes that I used in a presentation once to explain that. So we'll include that as a visual reference.
Yes, for all those visual people out there, that will be awesome, because just hearing us explain it will probably drive them crazy. But all those auditory people have just been very satisfied.
A different way I have to explain it. Display ads effectively work like a similar mechanism to how print ads would work in a newspaper or a magazine or even television ads. So they are effectively the online version of traditional advertising.
Yes.
That's another way to think of it.
Yeah. And there's many different ways people can get access to doing display advertising. Through companies like Google, through Facebook, through other third-party services such as AdRoll. There's different ones out there. The big players at this current time are Google and Facebook, no two ways about it. Unless you've happened to come across something that's bigger or better.
No, I would say, from a business owner perspective, Google Ads, Google Display Network, which they are Google AdWords, and then Facebook ads, and then probably the third one that may be on some people's radar is like private ads. If there's a particular forum or website that your customers are hanging about all the time, then there may be a third provider to think about, which is whatever that that private advertising is.
Okay, so who should be using the display network or display advertising? I know this is a loaded question, Brendan, but who should be using it?
Okay, I'll give you an example of one client that we have run display ads for in the past. They are a train museum in Sydney who run a regular Thomas the Tank Engine Day, where they have like a life-size Thomas the Tank Engine train, and all the kids go there, and it's all exciting. Now,
That's why you've got the hat. I've seen the hat you've got hanging up in your bedroom.
My stomach, like I'm just big.
The train driver hat, and that's why
controllers.
your face is always so dirty too, Brendan.
No,
But that's good. I love trains just as much as the next little boy.
So, so this is a train museum. They want to promote this event, so they need to create awareness of it, because sure, there are a very small number of people searching for Thomas the Tank Engine party, train, all this sort of stuff in the search results. But it's like we're literally talking a handful of people. There might be 50 clicks a month on those ads. Yep. Whereas we're running Google Display Network ads, and we are targeting them. There's lots of different ways you can target Google Display Network ads, but in this particular case, we are running the ads in front of anyone who is in Sydney, in Australia, or Canberra in Australia, because this museum is kind of halfway between the two. It's like an hour and a half drive.
Okay.
So it's in the middle. So those two are kind of our relevant, people in those locations are relevant to our ads. And then we are using keyword targeting. So we are running those ads on any page, or those ads will trigger on any page that is about Thomas the Tank Engine. So
yes.
So that's one way we do the targeting. They will also trigger on pages that are about kids' activities. So, it'd be, something like on a tourism website, activities to do with kids in Sydney, things to do with kids on school holidays, those sort of pages. So the ads appear on pages about Thomas the Tank Engine, pages about kids' events, activities to do in Sydney, those sort of things. So people looking at those pages on the internet, they have some sort of very loose demand for going to this event. If that makes sense.
So the thing with display network advertising that people need to be aware of, excuse me, is it is a cost per click system. I mean, you can pay for impressions per 1,000 impressions. That's another system you can use in different channels. But the one that we're talking about is cost per click. So if the ad appears on a particular website and someone clicks on it, it's going to cost them a certain amount of money. Mm-hmm. Typically, in my experience, and probably yours as well, the display network costs are much, much lower than the search advertising clicks. But the good thing is that if no one clicks on the ad, it doesn't cost them any money.
Yes.
But at the same time, they're getting marketing done. People are still seeing the ad. It's no different to someone seeing an ad in a magazine or newspaper and not phoning you up or not going to your website. They've still seen the ad, so it's still embedding something in their mind, and the more they keep seeing the ad, the more it's going to be embedded. Mm-hmm. So even if they don't necessarily click on your ad at any given time, it still may get them to come to your website at some stage. So I think that's an added benefit that doesn't get talked about a lot. But
yeah.
But
you've also touched on that point. You've kind of touched on the point why business owners, particularly more traditional business owners, should have display ads front of mind. They really should be on top of them, particularly today, for a couple of reasons. Because number one, search ads are getting really, really expensive in AdWords. The second one is that, like you've just said, display networks display ads act in a similar way to traditional print advertising, which costs a lot of money. Like what's a full page advertisement in the newspaper to run on a Saturday might be 50 or 100 grand. And it may not work, whereas if you run display ads, you can run those ads and they don't actually cost anything until they work. And they're just much faster and more flexible. You can track the performance. They have all the benefits of traditional ads without a lot of the downsides. And they are a lot cheaper. Like we have customers doing search ads and it's $5 a click, and then the same customers doing display network ads and it's 20 cents a click. So there's sure that the visitors are a little bit less qualified because they have less active demand for whatever it is, but that's a massive cost difference. So
that's huge. So you could get 10 times as much traffic and it's not costing you the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So that is very, very cool. So really, back to my original question, there's very few businesses that would not benefit from this type of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If they have an internet presence, if they have traffic come to a website, if that's part of what they're trying to do, if they don't just have a website that's a display brochure, then they should consider doing some type of display network advertising.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. All right. What's next, sir?
Well, it's not just about... So that's Google is one piece of the puzzle. So it's not just about Google. There are Facebook display ads as well. So they work quite differently to the Google ads. So the Google ads, you can target them in a few different ways by keyword. You can mix and match keyword, and you can specify the particular websites you want the ads to run on, such as YouTube.
Yep.
Facebook is a bit more about demographics. So for that particular example, the train museum, we also had Facebook ads running, and we had the same geographic targeting. So we had people that were in Canberra and Sydney in Australia, and we actually targeted the ads at parents with kids between 3 and 10 years old. So we run the ads in front of that demographic, and they're typically people who are going to be interested in coming to an event like the Thomas the Tank Engine Day. So in both cases, the ads were very, very successful, and especially the train museum actually had TV ads at one point. And you run a TV ad campaign, you're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas we had this offline campaign going, and you could see when the TV stuff ran, because their website traffic suddenly got to 2,000 visits, and it stayed there for, it was sitting at 500, and then it goes up to 2,000, and it's 2,000 the next day, and then it drops off completely. Whereas the display network stuff, we were getting consistent extra 300 to 400 people a day to the website with the budget they had. So that's massive in terms of cost benefit, between display network channel and TV advertising channel.
And are they still running that campaign?
Well, there's a lot of politics with that particular train museum. They've been absorbed into another. We've been running the camp because they run this event every 3 months. So we've been running the campaign for 3.5 years, but they've been absorbed into another train museum, and they have someone who already has someone doing ads, so they've taken over.
Okay, fair enough, and they probably stopped doing them, because that's usually what happens when someone takes over from someone who's doing a good job. They usually turn it into a bad job. So, but that's a good experience, and that was one very good example. Now, so Facebook, different story, as you were saying. It's based on demographics rather than what we were talking about with the Google Display Network. Again, it comes down to is their target market spending time on Facebook. So that's a good thing with Facebook. It's very easy to find that out just by setting up a dummy account with your advertising set up within Facebook and doing some research and putting in some demographic figures and seeing how many people there are that you can potentially reach. And if it's very low, then it may not be worth the time. But I say even if it's a low number, or if it's a potentially decent product that you're selling in terms of cost, even if it's a low figure in volume, it doesn't really matter, because you're only paying for the traffic that you get. So it's not like you're just randomly doing an advertising campaign that may or may not work based on a certain price that you're spending. If you only spend $50 in the month for the Facebook campaign, then that's great.
Yeah, and that's it. The other good thing about Facebook is you can use a small budget, and it does work. So even if you only have $10 a day budget to spend, it's definitely worth considering. Now, there's a couple of caveats, right? Like, if your business is really a strictly problem solution business, then display ads may not necessarily be the best place to start. Certainly, search ads would be a good place for that, I think. But where your business might even be split. So some things are pure problem solution services or products that you sell, and some things might be nice to haves. They're not necessity purchases, or they're not problem solution purchases. So in those cases where going to a Thomas the Tank Engine Day, that's not a problem solution sale. That's a nice to have purchase, I guess, or it's a nice thing to do. So, in that particular case, display networks work extremely well. The other place it could work well is where you have a new product or service in your particular market that's never existed before. It solves a unique problem, or it has a really distinct advantage over whatever your competitors are doing, and you can advertise it, generate awareness of your new product or service and how it solves this problem uniquely, or it has a unique price point, or whatever it is, and actually generate awareness of how good your product or service is in comparison to competitors. And suddenly you've created a problem in your prospect's mind, because now they have this new problem, that they have this existing product or service that was working okay, but now you have this better one that is 10 times better, or it does something unique, and now they have a problem in that they don't have this. So you can use it in that way as well to actually, I hate to say, but create problems in your prospect's mind, or create a need that didn't exist there before. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, though. But if they're not aware that there is something better, you've got to find a way of getting in front of them to make them aware of what that is.
Yep.
So, so then there is something else that sits in the middle, I would say, of the two of those things we're talking about, and it can benefit on all of the different areas, and that's remarketing.
Yes.
Because remarketing is something, for people who don't know, if someone comes to your website from wherever they've come from, they could have come from a Yellow Pages ad, a TV ad, Google Display Network, search ads, Facebook. If they end up on your website, what remarketing does is it places a cookie on their web browser. So if they don't take the particular action that you want them to take on the site, like buying a product or filling in a contact form, and they leave the site without any action being taken, you can have it set up so that your ads, and the similar similar ads you're using to the display network, are presented to that visitor anytime they're on a website that has ads being displayed from somewhere like Google, or if they're on Facebook, and they'll see ads from you as well. So it basically follows them around the internet, and you can control how often that is and for what length of period. You could set it for 10 days, 30 days, 100 days if you want, and then it will actually present your ads to them again to get them to come back to the website for that second chance at getting them to buy your product or your service. And that is something we are finding very, very effective these days doing that, because quite often people get distracted. They end up on your website, the phone rings, the kid cries, someone knocks at the door, and the next thing they've lost their concentration and they don't end up doing anything on your site. Doesn't mean they didn't want to, it just means they had forgotten about it. So the whole point is with those ads is they keep seeing you around the internet. Now, typically in a lot of people's minds still to this day with remarketing, they think that you are the be-all and end-all of that particular industry or product because they keep seeing your ad. They're not aware that they're the only one at that particular time seeing the ad because the cookie's on their computer. So we found that to be very, very effective.
Yeah. I want to add some points there.
Go for it.
Now, a lot of people have seen this and they've felt it. They go to a website and suddenly they see ads for that website following them around. And it gets to the point where the ads are stalking them. They see the ads absolutely everywhere. Now, that's an example of remarketing done very, very poorly, because there are some settings inside. So let's talk about Google Display Network. There's some settings inside there to stop that happening. There's something called impression capping. So your people will only see the ads a certain number of times per week, per day, per month. So the ads shouldn't be stalking you around to the point you feel uncomfortable. Also, and this is because a lot of agencies who are doing online marketing and advertising, they employ, from my experience, they employ a bunch of young people, which I call kids, but people in their early 20s who don't have actually any understanding of how sales works. They have no real-world sales experience. So the other thing with remarketing, the ads shouldn't turn on straight away. Someone shouldn't come to your website and 2 minutes later they click across to 9MSN or a news website and see your ads. That's a stupid thing to do. That's hassling the prospect. Because I do a lot of e-commerce consulting, I talk about this a lot, how you really need to relate it to a real world, because a lot of people have trouble grasping how the online world works. So it always makes, it's always an easier way to frame it if you think about it in the scenario of a retail store. So if someone came into your retail store, poked around, looked at some products, picked some things up, and walked off without buying, you wouldn't race down the street chasing after them, screaming discounts, asking them, begging them to come back. So with remarketing, if the ads turn on straight away, it's effectively the same thing. That's why people get that stalky kind of, why are these ads following me around for weeks and weeks on end feeling.
Yeah.
Because they've been poorly configured. So, that's why that's happening. The other thing, some considerations and some other thinking points here is remarketing typically works better where there's a longer purchase cycle, or the time to purchase is quite long. So people are doing a lot of research. For example, I don't know, they're buying a new TV or buying a new bed or something, where they decide they need to buy a new bed, or they need a new TV, and they might spend a month or 2 months researching that purchase, clicking around the web, looking at prices, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So remarketing will work better in the longer sales cycle, because people will make multiple visits to your website because they're looking for information, they're doing research, they're moving along the buying funnel, but they're not at the point they're ready to buy. So using remarketing, say someone comes to your website and then you have a remarketing campaign set up that starts showing the ads to them, say, after two weeks after they've been to the website, and the ads run for, say, 10 days and then they stop. That's an example of one way you can do remarketing. You don't want to stalk them forever. So that's something to keep in mind, the length of the sales cycle, or the time to buying, I guess. And the other way it works well is where there's recurring purchases or seasonal purchases. So, think about it at Christmas. So if you're a business that does, you make a lot of money off the Christmas season, then remarketing makes sense, because if someone comes to your website Christmas this year, you can put a cookie on their machine, you can cookie them, add them to your remarketing list, and then next Christmas, say in November, you can run a remarketing campaign to promote Christmas offers or discounts or specials you have running for that year. So in a sense, it's a way of getting those customers back again. Like I had a discussion last week with a client who runs a small kind of a small accommodation place in the southwestern WA, and we talked about remarketing, because people typically go in there, a winter getaway, for example. They go for a long weekend down south. So I said, well, let's do remarketing, where if someone's come to the website this year, then there's a good chance next year, when it comes to winter, or they want to have a getaway, or when you have the low season, when there's low bookings and you need to generate awareness, if they've already been and stayed with you once and they had a good experience, they'll come back again. So you can turn those ads on when you need them. If there's low bookings, or there's a period you need to get more bookings, then that's another way potentially to use them. So long sales cycle, recurring or seasonal purchases, it can work extremely well.
Yeah, very, very true. And typically, the higher the price point, the longer the sales cycle with most items. So there's more money involved. People are doing a bit more research and spending time. So another thing could be complementary products, or so for example, someone buys an inkjet printer or a multi-desk printer thing, multi-function printer. Now, after they've just bought the printer, they don't need ink cartridges, so you can have it set so that within 30 days or so later, they will start seeing advertising for saying need more ink cartridges for your printer. And that's, they go, oh yeah, need more ink cartridges. So you're not trying to sell them a printer again, you're trying to sell them something else that's complementary. So there's all these different ways you can do it. But as you say, most people set it up in a lazy format and just target everybody straight away for forever, which is not good.
A lot of thinking needs to go into it. Just the example we had there with the ink cartridges. So we do work for Didgeridoo Breath. We talk about them, Didgeridoo store in Australia. We talk about them in the workshops and have used them as a case study for years. So we have remarketing for them set up. So when someone buys a Didgeridoo, we add them on the remarketing list. They also have a separate website where they sell online Didgeridoo lessons. So if someone has not signed up for the online Didgeridoo lessons, I think it's within 30 days or 6 weeks, they will start seeing ads for them, because that makes sense. They bought a Didgeridoo, and now they need Didgeridoo lessons. And we have the technology in the back end that will automatically work out whether they've actually signed up for those Didgeridoo lessons, and it won't show them the ads if they haven't. So it's another example of, that's a real world campaign that works really well and it's really cheap. So.
Yeah, and you're doing that just on the Google Display Network at the moment, or are you doing Facebook as well?
Just on the Google Display Network.
Yeah.
From everything that we've done, Google Display Network is typically 4 times cheaper for the same result as Facebook, because so few people know about it, and there's so much more. You think about Facebook, not everyone's on Facebook, but everyone's on the internet. Like the Google Display Network ads run almost everywhere. So the market's bigger. There's more inventory they have to fill, so it's a lot cheaper. So
yeah, definitely true. So so that's awesome. We're actually just setting up a new business. We attained the domain remarketing.com.au and are building that platform out. As we talk at the moment, it's actually not live, but by the time people hear this, it probably will be. So feel free to check that out if you need some more information on remarketing. It also gets called retargeting. They're slightly different in terms of what they are. Search retargeting, the object is to re-engage with site visitors based on their behaviour of prior visits. So that would still come under the same as remarketing. I think the two are interchanged a lot, and people mean the same thing, but there are slight differences. How would you differentiate between retargeting and remarketing, Brendan?
I just call them the same thing, really.
Yeah. So there's probably some nuances and differences that we could dig into, but we won't go into detail. But it's really is the same thing. I mean, Google calls it remarketing. That's what they call it. So does Facebook. So I'm sticking with remarketing as far as I'm concerned anyway. So that's cool.
Also,
so
I guess
what else?
If any of this stuff strikes a chord, if it, particularly about the recurring purchases and that sort of thing, if that strikes a chord, you should also be thinking about email marketing, because email marketing can be used in the exact same way. So if you have someone's email address and they buy a printer from you, in 6 weeks you can send them an email with a special for ink cartridges.
Absolutely.
So they work very well hand in hand together. So
yeah, definitely. And I think the two, if you've got remarketing and technically you could call it email remarketing if you really wanted to, if you've got those happening, if you've got people on an opt-in list and retargeted, your chances of conversion are so exponentially higher than your competition, because most of your competition won't be doing this. Some will, but just because they're doing it doesn't mean they're doing it well. So, and it's a very inexpensive compared to search marketing. So, very good point. Email is still up there with the best converting traffic that you can get, without a doubt. Probably in the top 1 or 2 spots. Would be arguable.
I would say number 1 spot. I think.
Yeah.
Because the cost of everything else is going up so much. The cost of AdWords for search is going up.
Yeah.
SEO is getting much harder. It's getting more competitive. Whereas email marketing, you can need to pay for the software. So what? It's a small amount of money. The actual cost of sending an email is not much. There's apart from the software cost, there's no actual dollar cost. If you email 20,000 people, it's not like you're paying for 20,000 clicks. It's completely
definitely
dollars out. There's no dollars out of your pocket to do that. And the other thing about email marketing is if you systemize it, it's automatic. So once you set up the system to automatically email people at certain trigger points after certain time periods, then it's all automated. You can set it up once and forget about it. That's the other good thing about it. So you've got this system that's working with no out-of-pocket cost, that is continually generating new clients for you. E-commerce is a huge one for email marketing, abandoned cart emails, order follow-up emails, all sorts of automatic stuff you can set up, and it doesn't need to look scammy or templated. It can look very personal as well, even though it's automated. Yeah,
absolutely. And you control the list. That's the thing.
Yep.
You, all these other things we're talking about, you're subjected to their rules and conditions, Google, Facebook, whoever. But the list that you build and you control, that is your list, and you are free to hopefully treat them correctly, but you're free to do what you want to with the list. Email them as often as you feel is appropriate. No one's going to say, no, you've sent out too many emails, you can't email them twice a day. You can only do it once a week. There's no big brother scenario happening with your email. I mean, you still have to abide by your email providers' rules and spam laws and all that sort of stuff. But I still don't think there's anything that is as good as email. I think probably display network / remarketing, that group is probably one of the next best things in terms of value and reach. But the whole idea is ultimately still, when those people do end up on your website, to get them on your list. That is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, capture the details somehow.
Yeah. So have we got anything else to tick off this checklist, or are we done?
I don't think so. I've got I'll link across to a post on my website that has some ad examples, because the other thing people do is create terrible ads that just don't work. So I have some that look scammy or cheesy, or they're not in line with the brand. So we have plenty of examples. I'll link across to it, and I also have there's a couple of paragraphs on a very short process I have for actually coming up with the content for the ads to generate them, which is actually really simple, but most people are overthinking of it. So you just need a headline, some filler content. We like to use real photos of real people, because traditional marketing principles apply here, because the first thing your ad needs to do is, so traditional marketing we're calling attention, interest, desire, action, so AIDA. So the first thing your ad needs to do is get attention in a positive way. So we found that having really high contrast, vibrant looking ads with real people who are smiling is one of the best ways to get attention. It's, you particularly, I guess males would see this more often, but you often see ads with a very attractive looking woman on there with big boobs, and that's one way to get attention, but it's not so ethical, and it's not really in line with your brand. So good quality ads, good headline so you get their interest, and have a clear call to action on there, even if it just says click here. I think that's important. But there's it's 2 paragraphs long, and it explains just some bullet points there with some how to think it through to create the ads, I guess.
Yeah, the what you mentioned in regards to female photos is certainly good at getting increased clicks, but not necessarily increased conversion. So you end up getting a lot of people clicking on your ads just because of the picture, but then they get there and they're not interested in anything else, and then they click off. So you've really just wasted your money. So you may think you're being clever, and I'm sure there's people out there that say you should use a photo like that on your ads on Facebook or display marketing, but only if it's relevant to your target market. So that being said, thank you for your time, Brendan.
Thanks, Ed. Good chat.
Very, very good. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And make sure you go to the top of our website at businessmarketingshow.com and sign up to get reminders of our podcasts when they're coming out. That would be great. And we'd love to hear back from you as well. So thanks for visiting and listening.
See you next time.
You've been listening to the Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com or on iTunes.